Merhaba arkadaşlar. So the second semester of intermediate Turkish starts with a couple of weeks of review of the things that we studied last semester and easing into the last semester of intermediate. In this lesson I will talk about mostly optative, but because it is very similar to imperative and you already know about this, that I'm going to start with imperative. I'm going to review it just so briefly so that you can compare and contrast these two and be able to distinguish them well. So let's get to it. So imperative is the easiest in Turkish, right? So all you have to do is getting rid of everything in the verb you're seeing after the root. So you go down to the root, and that is imperative. For instance, oku is the root of okumak, but it also means read, right? It's the second person singular imperative. It is easy, but it is also very versatile. It has a lot of functions in Turkish. Just need to be careful how to use them, because the second person imperative is quite direct, right? So it's like as if you were in the military camp or something. Somebody's giving you orders. So for that reason, we tend to use the second person plural to make it a little bit more polite. It's either used for more than one person or for make it more polite. So instead of saying oku to a person, you can say okuyun, all right? So this is still direct, but nicer, okay? So there's actually one more layer to being polite, and that is okuyunuz, and there is no grammatical place in the pronouns for this one, but it is ultra polite. Okay, okuyunuz. And for instance, on planes, when they announce please fasten your seatbelts, in situation like these, this form is used. Lütfen kemerlerinizi bağlayınız. It even adds the lütfen, quintessential politeness, lütfen, to it. So you see announcements and signs usually using this form. So it is nice to use yourself as well. So that's positive command, the imperative. So in the negative, there are some casual expressions used in the first or single second person. Let me give you some examples. Üzülme, don't worry. So it is not a command, right? But it is actually just suggesting someone not to be sad. Yapma. I mean, it is really fast saying don't do it, and you need to be fast when something is like a child is touching the stove. Yapma. Don't do it, right? So in English, you say usually don't, right? So it's like that, yapma. Saçmalama. Don't be ridiculous. You might need to use that sometimes. Sorma. Don't ask. Canımı sıkma. Don't bother me. Beni deli etme. Don't make me upset, or literally don't make me mad. Okay? So, you already know about this as well. Imperative used for so many things, but most commonly for giving directions, right? So you're asking, how do I go to Taksim? Let's say that, Taksim'e nasıl giderim? Bu sokaktan sola dönün, 100 metre kadar düz gidin, trafik ışıklarından sağa dönün. I'm just like saying this, right? So this is a type of direction that you would see. It's used in the second person plural, right? And that's very common. It's also used for recipes, preparing food, right? So for instance, sebzeleri yıkayın, wash the vegetables, yarım saat pişirin, cook them half an hour, servis yapın and serve them gibi. All right. There are other ways of giving recipe directions, but this is also common. All right. I mean, it's another common way is like using passive voice. We'll come back to that when we learn passive. It's also used for very common expressions such as çok yaşa. When somebody sneezes, we say bless you like this, çok yaşa. And the answer to that, sen de gör. So it literally means what? Live long. And the answer is, and you see it. So you can make this expression, for instance, politer, çok yaşayın. If this is, a person that you're not very close, çok yaşayın, siz de görün. Then the answer would, replicate that. There are two verbs that change in speech, yemek ve demek, and you're not surprised about this. These like two verbs change a lot when they're conjugated. So yemek becomes yiyin and written, but we say yiyin because it's hard to say yiyin. Deyin, we say diyin. Okay? So here's a new piece for imperative. In a casual speech, we use a form of imperative for pleading or forceful imperative. It depends how you say it. I'll explain it. The root takes sene for the second person. You'll see how it is. So gelmek becomes gelsene, gitsene, baksana. And for the plural, gelsenize, gitsenize, baksanıza. So the general meaning is, why don't you come? Why don't you go? Why don't you look? Right? So it is in colloquial, it's used this way. Now here is the trick. When is it pleading? When is it forceful? It is the way you say it. So if it's a soft rising tone, it indicates pleading. Gelsene, gitsene. I hope I can do this in front of the camera. And let's try the forceful one. Gelsene, gitsene. Right? So in context, you realize it can be both. I'm sure you'll have no problem with it when in real life situation it's going to be clear. But that is also very common in Turkish. I'm sure you'll hear it quite a bit in TV shows. All right. So let's move on to optative now. And the thing that's about imperative, last note about imperative that it only happens in second person, either singular or plural, because it's a command form, right? So you ask someone to do something. Optative, on the other hand, happens in first person or third person. So ben ve o. So it's kind of like they complement each other, right? So the first person, ben gideyim, and it's written gideyim. It's pronounced as gideyim, ben gideyim. O gitsin, biz gidelim, onlar gitsinler. So you will see a chart in your books. So study that as always. It's a good idea to conjugate. You always do that. So the meaning is gideyim, gideyim, let me go. O gitsin, let him go. So it goes like that, right? The trick, however, it changes. The meaning slightly changes in negative form. For instance, gitmeyeyim, Negative. Gitmeyeyim. It's written, but we say gitmeyeyim. Gitmesin. Gitmeyelim. 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 We say gitmeyelim. Gitmesinler. And the meaning is I shouldn't go. He shouldn't go. It's an interesting change. The question is gideyim mi? Gitsin mi? Negative question, gitmeyeyim mi? Gitmesin mi? Should I go? Shouldn't I go? And it goes like that. So let's talk about the function of optative, because you've seen it many times already, but I'm going to start something that maybe you haven't seen before, and that's the word olsun. Olmak, third person optative, olsun. So when it's used by itself, it's an expression of acknowledgement or approval in the sense of, okay, all right, fine. So look at the situation. Somebody says, ben gidiyorum. And you say, olsun, git. Okay, fine, go. So it's an, approval. Or Aslı bu akşam bizde kalacak. Aslı is going to stay with us tonight, somebody says. And you say, olsun, kalsın. That's okay, she can stay. Okay? So that's when olsun is used alone. But you heard olsun, of course, several times when we are talking about greetings. For instance, doğum günün kutlu olsun. Happy birthday. Or bayramın kutlu olsun. Happy bayram, right? Festivals, we use this word. Ramazan bayramı mübarek olsun. Happy Ramadan. Hayırlı olsun. When somebody buys something new, wears something new, you use this phrase, hayırlı olsun. Geçmiş olsun, when somebody is sick, get well soon. And then rest of the greetings is without olsun even. I say this all the time, almost every after videos. Kolay gelsin. So you say this to a person who's working on something. Good luck with your work. May it come easy to you. That's what it means. And afiyet olsun, again with olsun, bon appetit in Turkish, right? So these are very common ways of using olsun. Or greetings, optative in greetings. Optative can also be used for sayings such as tatlı yiyelim, tatlı konuşalım, something that I like to use. It means let's eat sweets and talk sweet, right? So there are a bunch of other examples in your books, and so this is a very long, it's probably the longest video, so I'm gonna cut it here. Please also study the festivals, bayrams in Turkey, the religious ones and the national ones, and I will see you in class. Kolay gelsin. Görüşürüz.